So I have to tell you, I think I was probably around 11 years old, and it was the night before a piano recital. I don't play piano, just nobody get any ideas. It was the night before a piano recital, and I had this real anxiety-induced nightmare. In the dream, I was sitting in the seats of the church where the recital was going to be held the next day, and I was barely listening to those actually playing, as I was too anxious in my dream. And then all of a sudden, it was the person before me, their turn. And the person who comes up and sits down at the piano is no one other than Beethoven himself. As if that wasn't bad enough, do you know what Beethoven started playing? The same exact song that I had prepared. It's kind of like showing up to prom in the same dress as the head of the cheerleaders when you're frumpy old me. It just doesn't work. It's also pretty similar to having to prepare a sermon on the same passage that is preached the day before by the new presiding bishop, especially when that presiding bishop preaches a sermon that I would say is on fire. As I said before, I strongly encourage you to go and listen or read his words. And the truth is, I was tempted to actually just read them to y'all this morning. But I won't. I will let you do your homework on your own. In part is because I want to make sure that we do combine what we are celebrating here together in our homily message. And that is that today we are celebrating the Feast of All Saints. This tradition that goes back to the 700s honors and gives thanks for the lives of all the saints. But today we also here at Iona Hope are in the second week of our stewardship season, a season of exploring together as one why and how we can be best stewards of our time, talents, and treasures in this coming year. Somehow, I'm going to try to incorporate these two themes in a rather brief message this morning. Luckily, Margaret has set me up well for that, providing us with another video. She crosses herself too, you didn't see that. I think that is more that it actually works. That she provided this morning that I think does merge together the idea of all saints and us remembering together as one. So together as one, we remember. to give thanks and be inspired by those canonized saints. Over time and through some Protestantization, I don't know if that's a word, I didn't look it up, works so. All Saints' Day has morphed a bit, especially as we have combined All Saints' Day and All Souls' Day into one. Now, depending on the denomination and the local tradition, it can look very different. At present, it seems to me that we focus on two things on this feast day. One is gaining inspiration from those who have gone before us, and two, to honor those who we love who have died. Remembering our past, though, isn't uniquely a Christian thing. There are memorial markers all over the place of individuals and movements that have done of those who have done great things that others deem important that we should not forget them. And remembering isn't just about people, but also things that we have learned along the way. And when I was in kindergarten myself or thereabouts, there was a bestseller book that came out, All I Need to Know I Learned in Kindergarten, with the premise that the most important things about how to be a decent and loving human were taught to us at a very young age. We just need to remember them. But there is something special about remembering as a church community. While it may feel that remembering keeps us looking back, it actually is part of what helps us to look forward. And we see this in our readings today. We see this in the glimpse of the resurrection in Lazarus' story. While Jesus compassionately weeps alongside those who mourn, he is praising God for what's about to be done and to do the work of life restoration. This is just chapters before Jesus' own resurrection. Then we have this promise from John's Revelation, one of my favorite passages, with this imagery of a renewed heaven and earth where God and creation reside together in a fullness that we can only begin to comprehend. Because we are people of the resurrection, we can somehow simultaneously grieve for what has come to pass and be filled with hope in the promise of the resurrection. We stand on a threshold holding these two together. We can find that remembering actually helps point us towards the future. See, the saints of the past, both the famous ones who get churches named after them and the ones only known to those closest to them, do have done some serious kingdom work, laying stones upon the foundation that Jesus Christ laid, that leads us towards a fulfillment of that renewed earth and a dwelling with God in fullness. Their work and the inspiration found in their memories keeps us going from one generation to the next until we become the saints inspiring the generations that will follow us. Together as one, we remember. We remember to connect with and to honor those who have gone before, but we also remember so that we can pick up that baton that has been handed to us, so that we can carry on the work that was started before, so that we can continue to make our way to fulfill that vision that St. John gave to us. When John wrote, "And I saw the holy city, the new Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God. See, the home of God is among mortals. God will dwell with them as their God, and they will be God's people, and God will be with them. So I am making all things new." Together as one, we remember so that we can continue to do the work set before us. Amen.